Welcome to the village. Welcome everyone, and I hope you guys had a great, spring break.
I did. I'm still breaking.
Oh no! Listen, it's back to the real world. Had to go back to school this week. Sorry, spring break is over, and my students let me know that it was time to come back. Whew. Today was busy.
Oh yeah.
So again, guys, welcome to the village.
Welcome.
Happy National Financial Literacy Month. Did y'all even know that was a thing?
Now we do.
So listen, we're going to talk about financial literacy, but in particular, we want to talk about why financial literacy is, need to be taught in school. Because I know I didn't learn it. Did you learn
No, I didn't. I'm kind of young, so I'm surprised.
Okay, girl, you know. All right, but anyway, for people like myself, I did not learn anything about financial literacy. So we're going to talk about that. And then we'll talk about closing the wealth gap. We talk about the achievement gap all the time, right? But we also need to close the wealth gap. And then how do we do that? Like what strategies do we need to do? What programs and things we need to do in our communities to close the wealth gap. And also, we need to talk about generational wealth. How do we build generational wealth, right? Especially for our Black and Brown communities. We need to talk about it. So, again, welcome to the village. You want to stay tuned because we have some financial experts, some financial literacy experts joining us in the conversation. And we're talking about it. We're talking about money, we're talking about finances, budgeting, credit. Let's talk about it. All right. So, welcome to the village. Our very special guest. We have Dr. Wadira Ely. She's not a stranger to the village. She's been here several times. So, welcome back, Dr. Ely. And also, we have Rosetta Durden. Welcome.
Thank
So,
you.
one of the things I want our guests to do is to introduce themselves to the village. Tell us what you do. And also, why is financial literacy so important? Let us know. So, we're going to start with Dr. Ely. Welcome back to the village.
Well, thank you for having me. I am super excited to be here as always. The energy that you and Coach Williams bring to the table, you guys are doing a phenomenal job with just educating people about different topics. But I love this topic. This topic is near and dear to my heart, and it's financial literacy. And just a little bit about me. I come from a background just like you guys as an educator, 21 years in education, and my last 18 months in education, I started working as a financial consultant. And once I started doing that, helping people improve their credit, it started with me improving my credit, helping others improve their credit, I started to shift. A shift took place within me because I realized the things that we were teaching kids in school was not in alignment with what they needed to be productive citizens in society. So that shift also allowed me to walk away from formal education after 21 years. So I am no longer a part of that world of education, but I'm still an educator because now my goal and mission is to educate as many people as possible in financial literacy. That means personal credit, business credit, creating passive income, also buying real estate. And one thing you said about you wanted to talk about is generational wealth. Well, building wealth and generational wealth and leaving a legacy today, to me, in today's world, has become like buzzwords. But what does that really mean? And what are we really doing to, like you said, break that wealth gap? So my mission is really to help people understand how credit works and how they can leverage that to really build wealth. So it has really changed my life, and I'm looking forward to changing many other people's lives. So that's just a little bit about my story, and I'll give it over to Mrs. Darden.
Okay, good evening. I am Rosetta Durden. I am currently a high school math teacher. And so I'm here in the beautiful city of Little Rock, Arkansas. And I actually teach a financial literacy class. And that's why this was very interesting to me when I saw the information. I teach seniors, and we teach a class called quantitative literacy. And we do everything from credit to checking account, bank accounts, mortgages, real estate. I teach from A to Z, all things financial. And so when they leave me, then they may not know everything, but they do have a sense or a knowledge of quite a few areas that they need to be able to succeed.
And that's so awesome, that they're getting that knowledge
Mhm.
as seniors,
Right.
before they go to college and
Right.
before they're bombarded by all of those credit cards, right?
Low.
And loans, yes. So that's really good.
Yes. Right.
So again, so we talked about, why this is important, but I'm going to talk about in schools. And Miss Durden, thank you. Kudos to you. That's like a ministry. When it's, all
Mhm.
teachers, we give and we give our share. We're providing these service and we're serving our communities. But the fact that you're teaching math and teaching financial literacy is so important. But I want to know, how long have your district been teaching financial literacy in the schools? Is this a new thing?
I've been teaching this class probably about 8 to 10 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there was another class in place before this one, and it was a senior class, but it was not altogether financial literacy. But this quantitative literacy class, it pretty much is all things financial, and it's been
Yeah.
8 to 10 years.
Awesome. And
Mhm.
again, in my district area, in our area, our school district is kind of new. They're kind of behind the eight ball. I'm just kind of surprised. Here we are. I believe we have one of the best school systems. But this is new for our seniors, where it's required for them to
Mhm.
take financial literacy in high school. So shout out to your school district for making it a requirement for their seniors, and they've been doing it for years.
Well, it's
So
not a requirement. It's an elective class.
Mm.
okay,
It's a senior course that they can elect if they don't want to take pre-cal or
oh,
AP
okay,
Stat, then they can take it. And trust me, our classes are full, and they enjoy it.
that's a good thing. So again, we want to shift to making it a requirement, because I think this is something that they need. It's real world applications, math that they're going to need. A lot of times they say, "Why do I need calculus? Why do I need this?"
Because we said so.
Right. But when we talk about learning about budgeting and credit and mortgage, all of these
Yep.
real world things, you need it. So I don't understand why it's not a required course.
Well, it's
So
not
now,
required. Wait. It's not a required course for a reason. Okay. So the
I
people
know. Come on, I was about to say, jump in, girl.
educators, they are billionaires. Okay. The people who make the laws are billionaires, and they want to create a culture of people who are being compliant and complacent and
Mhm.
do what I say do, and get a high school diploma or a college degree and collect all this debt, and then you got to go to work to continue to make them billions. So that's the historical part of why financial literacy is not taught in schools. And so if you know your history, you understand why the culture of the school system is the way it is, and why they want everyone to conform to a certain way, why certain things are only taught, and why certain things are only tested, because that's the way the billionaires want it to be. They want us to be ignorant towards financial literacy and to keep making them billions. So, but people are starting to wake up. I will honestly say that people are starting to take a turn, and the old way of just doing what is they're told to do is changing. People want to be educated about their credit scores. They want to know why they got to pay for a car and pay 3 times the amount because they got this score. What is this score? What is this score all about? You know what I mean? So that's where I come in and I break that thing down, because they need to understand your FICO score is made of 5 things, and 3 of those 5 you can control. So those derogatory marks, you can control that. That means pay your bills on time. Okay. That's 35% of what makes up your FICO score. That's a big chunk. Next category, your credit usage, keeping those credit cards low. So a lot of times our people are under the impression, when I say our people, I'm gonna say brown people, people of color, we are under the impression that we can have a credit card, we can max it out, and then as long as we're making that minimum payment that's required, that we're okay.
Mhm.
No, once you go over 30%, you now have a negative impact on your credit score. So you got to keep your credit cards paid now. It's not that you can't use that whole $1,000, But what happens is you're supposed to already have the money to pay that back. That's called using credit responsibly. Okay. So again, credit usage makes up 30%. So you got 35% on your derogatory marks. You got 30% on your credit usage. And then every time you go to apply for credit, you get what we call an inquiry. Each inquiry that you did not get approved for is dragging your score down between 5 and 20 points. That's a lot of points that you can be that you're losing. So those categories right there, that's 75% of your FICO score. That's a big chunk. And you can control that. But a lot of people are not educated about that. And when I explain that to them, it's like a light bulb goes off. They're like, huh?
Like what?
I can
That's
control
what I wanted
that?
to.
Oh my goodness. I can,
That's what I was gonna say.
I can actually have a stake in my life and control my credit score. So when I walk into a car dealer or I will go to apply for a mortgage, I can walk in with confidence, knowing that my credit score is a certain number.
What was that for you, Dr. Ely? What was that light bulb that had you like, hold up, there's some more out there? Like, what made you take such an interest? Like you said, you had over 20 years in the game. Like, education, that is, or the traditional route of education was where you were headed. What caused that shift in you?
Well, for me, I used to live, I'm originally from New Jersey. So I lived in New Jersey mostly all my life. And then a few years ago, I packed up with my two children. I moved all the way across to the West Coast. So decided not to stay at the West Coast in the West Coast. I decided to come back to the East Coast. I didn't want to go back home, so I ended up here in Maryland. That's where I currently live. And once I decided that I loved this area, Prince George's County is a wonderful area, a lot of nice people here. I wanted to lay roots and I wanted to buy another house. And it all started when I went to this home buying seminar. And I'm sitting there, I'm telling the real estate agent all the bells and whistles that I want home. Oh yeah, I was telling her I want a townhome, I want this and that. And so she was listening and she was taking notes, like, oh, girl, I got you, I'm gonna hook you up. And she stepped out of the room and the mortgage lender pulled my credit. And needless to say, I was embarrassed. My credit was nowhere near what it needed to be to get approved for a home. So again, there was someone sitting there like me. She was a credit specialist and she was telling me about this awesome program. And I just went right home and signed right up. Okay. And then once I saw my score jump 100 points in 90 days, I said, well, I know I'm not the only one that need help with credit. I know I'm not the only one with 3 degrees and had a shameful credit score. To me, that don't even make sense. I got all this education, but I can't even buy a house because my credit is messed up and I don't know how to fix it. Well, during that process of me fixing mine, I was learning. And I said, I'm on to something with this. And so I just started continue to learn and I continued to share because I realized people I worked with in education, they didn't know nothing about credit either. So it spread kind of like wildfire. And I just, again, the shift was there for me, Coach Williams. The shift was when I couldn't even get pre-approved for a home. And here I got all this education. That's when the shift took place. So, that was a great question. And I'm happy I was able to share my experience. So again, financial literacy is where it's at. I've been able to leverage my own credit to get business credit. And a lot of people of color don't even know business credit exists. And it's a game changer. It's a really, when I say a game changer, so how I talked about credit usage with your personal credit, if you go over that 30%, it's going to have a negative impact on your score. Well, with business credit, you can literally max out the credit card and it shows up nowhere. So if you got a $50,000 credit card and you need to do, let's say you have an emergency, something break down or something broke in your house, you can use that credit card. And again, that shows up nowhere. Okay. You can have several business credit cards to do, I've used it and leveraged it to create passive income streams, like, my own car rental business, Airbnb, and so forth. There are so many things you can do once you understand how just making sure your personal credit's intact. You can use that to leverage business credit and then use that to create, when we talk about wealth, we talk about multiple streams.
So I want to talk about Ms. Durden, I was wondering, with your students, is that a topic that you're talking about as well? Talking about the wealth gap, or talking about generational wealth, talking about entrepreneurship. Like, what are some things that conversations that you're having with your students?
Okay. Well, first of all, can you see me here? You can tell the light has gone out. I'm actually sitting in my classroom, and we have
Oh,
these camera lights. And so since I hadn't moved, they just kind of went out. So
wow.
I
Okay. We
you
can
guys
see
pretty. I won't move around, so they won't come back on. But
you.
a question in reference to the wealth gap. Um, just last Thursday and Friday, I had a guest speaker who was actually a friend of mine because I actually worked in the mortgage business for 18 years before going into education. And so a
Wow.
friend, a coworker of mine that I worked with back in the day, she's still in the business. So she was a guest speaker via Zoom for my students on last Thursday and Friday, and she showed a PowerPoint of a graph that showed the credit gap
Mm.
between uh, brown people and other races. And needless to say, the line for the graph was all the way at the bottom.
Mm.
And that was a conversation that she actually had with them because the majority of our students here are African American or brown. We have some all ethnicities here, but the majority are our people. And
Mm.
so she talked about the credit usage and those different things. I also talked to them about use. We've covered a chapter on credit, so they know those
Mm.
percentages where they're not supposed to go over. We talked about maxing it out. So everything that Dr. Ely has covered, I've been having those conversations, and actually, right now, their final project is actually building a business from the ground up.
Oh
So they
wow,
actually had
good.
this whole 9 weeks, this whole quarter, that they've had to look at do a feasibility study.
Mm.
They've had to go find a location. They've had to decide on a business. They had to search permits, patents, different things. What do you need to start a business? Payroll taxes. So everything kind of that we've talked about all year is coming together in one packet here at the end in a business. And they have to do a final presentation before they leave me on May the 4th.
Wow,
Wow.
that's awesome. That's
Wow.
awesome. Kudos to you.
Yes,
That's
that's
right. That's
amazing.
right. Give her her and our kids.
I'm tapping. We need to tap in.
Where were you when I was in high school?
Shoot, can I take the class? Is
Right.
it too
Okay.
late?
And also kind of like Dr. Ely, I have kind of I'm not as learned as she is in credit, but I'm learning because
Mhm.
I personally had some things just like she did. I had to come to a realization that there's some things that I need to fix. So I had to start learning, and by me teaching kids, I first need to apply what I'm trying to teach them to myself to make sure that I'm where I need to be. So, but I share knowledge. I do have outside business, but I do share knowledge as much as possible, and I help those as much as possible as I can to try to get everybody on the right path.
Awesome, awesome. And that's what it's
I
about.
was about to say
Celebrating National Financial Literacy Month is
Mhm.
all about teaching others what they need to do to close the wealth gap, right?
Yeah.
And to build generational wealth, especially in our Black and Brown communities, right? Because
Mhm.
I will just be honest, for me, all of this information that you guys are sharing, I did not know until a few years ago. And so I love it. And thank you so much for coming to the village and sharing this information. And hopefully, our school leaders, our teachers, our district leaders are hearing our message and our cry for help. We need all of our schools to have these type of classes, these type of wonderful teachers
Mhm.
who are committed to teaching our next generation so that they can help close the wealth gap, right?
Right.
So I want
Right.
to hear from you your final thoughts as it relates to the wealth gap and financial literacy. I'm going to start with Ms. Durgan. Your final thoughts and tips for our village.
I think that we have to continue steering our children in the right direction. We've got to change their mindset when it comes to material things such as shoes, clothes,
Mm,
etc. Because that is where their money is being spent. And we're not teaching them to save. We
yeah.
parents are just I guess agreeing with their habits. So one thing that I do as a teacher, even when they come in want to show me something new, a new pair of Jordans or whatever, my first question, okay, well, how much money you spent X amount of money on those shoes? Did you put the same amount in your savings account?
Mm,
So they got to start learning that in order to be successful, in order to have something to to hold on to in the future, they got to start saving now, and they cannot just spend every dime that they get.
awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Dr. Ely, final thoughts.
Wow, Miss Durden, she brought it home though, because I mean, girlfriend, you put the hammer on the nail. Because I was just listening to a training last night and it talked about name brands. Gucci,
Mm,
Yes.
Louis, we wearing somebody else's name. And I used to
mm,
be just like everybody else. I would go out and buy me a Gucci pocketbook and some shoes and all that stuff. But how is that helping you? You making somebody else wealthy by buying someone else's brand. So I believe my final thoughts here is that it starts with us because
mm,
kids only do what they see adults do. So if
mm,
we change our mindset, and I say this all the time, we have to unlearn and relearn some things. And one of those things is the way we spend our money, where we spending our money, and why not learn how to invest? I think that's a key thing that's missing because it's okay to buy what you want, but make sure your money is constantly working for you. And that's
Mm,
what's the difference between the wealthy and the poor. The wealthy know how to keep their money going, where
mm.
the poor people just spend their last dime just to get that delayed gratification to have that item right now. Just like you talked about the Jordans and all the other things that we buy. It starts with us though. It starts with the adults because kids are only going to do what they see us do. Okay. So sometimes I think I have two sons. One is 20, one is 22. Sometimes I think they're not listening to me, but they are listening and they are watching
They're watching.
me
Yep.
and my behaviors and how I spend my money and how I conversations I have with my friends. Because I hear my sons, they having those conversations with their friends. They're repeating, yo, you got to start getting your business together. You got to get that business credit because you can max the credit cards out and you can use that for Toro. And I'm like, okay, they're listening. So again, the piggyback off of what you said, I think you hit it right home. We got to teach our kids something different, but I think the teaching starts with us. Okay.
Okay, but I agree.
awesome, awesome. So, listen, I appreciate you guys for joining the village today and joining our discussion and helping us, shine a light on this wonderful topic and making sure that we close the wealth gap. Ms. Durden, you're an educator, you're a teacher, but do you have anything else going on where people can reach out to you or follow you on social media?
Okay, well, social media, I'm under Rosetta E. Durden. I do have, still in the vein of education, I have a tutoring service, R.E. Durden Educational Services, and where I work with parents that try to help them work with their kids, and I work with kids of all ages. So follow me on Facebook, and I do virtual. So if I can help you, uh, please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. So nationwide. And make sure, Ms. Dirty, make sure you put your information in the comments. Give it to,
Okay.
put it in the private chat, and we'll make sure we share it.
Okay.
All right. And Dr. Ely, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Roz is and Dr. Ely, we are also business partners. And I know we're having a webinar today to talk
In
about
4
financial
minutes.
literacy. Yes, so we about to get up. So, Dr. Ely, tell them a little bit about what we do, and then we got to get up.
Okay. Well, if they're interested, they can come and follow me or follow you. My Facebook name is Dr. Wadira Taylor Ely. So that's on Facebook. And if you want to find me on Instagram, it's just my first name, last name together, Wadira Ely. And I have posted a flyer in my story where you can get the Zoom information if you are interested in joining us for Wealth Talk. So that's good, ready to go on in about 3 minutes. So I gotta go, guys. It has been a pleasure.
Yes,
it was great. Thank you
about financial literacy. I think this is a conversation that we could have really went on and on and on and on and on.
Yes.
Yes.
But because of time, we have to keep it short. So hopefully you'll have us back, Dr. Rod, so we can really
definitely
a little deeper about what we need in our schools, because a lot of things are missing, but financial literacy is at the top of the list. So until next time. Till next time.
All right. Well, we're gonna put all that information. Our CEO and producer in the back. We'll put all the links. And then again, thank y'all so much for joining the village. And for everyone else, thanks for joining Coach Williams and I as we shout out National Financial Literacy Month. Who knew that that's a thing? Let's close the wealth gap. Let's talk about financial literacy.
Prepare our kids.
Exactly.
Yes.
We want to build generational wealth. And like Dr. Ely said, it starts with us.
Yeah.
We have to model for our children, right? For our students. So kudos to all of the schools who are making financial literacy a priority and a required class. So kudos to you. Continue to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Village LG. And remember, teacher leadership is a mindset, not a position. See you next time.